Which of these devices should you get? An iPad Pro or a MacBook Pro? Yes, because of my latest video about the review of my M4 iPad Pro, lots of people were commenting about the differences between the iPad Pro and the MacBook Pro, and if the iPad Pro had a possibility to replace their Mac. So, in today's video, I want to help you out guys decide if you can get an iPad Pro for your needs, or if the iPad Pro is too limited for you, and in that case, should you go for the MacBook Pro? So if you are excited, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, let's compare the iPad Pro against the MacBook Pro in their latest generations. On the left side of me, I have the M4 iPad Pro, and on my right, I have a MacBook Pro, a 16-inch MacBook Pro. It has been my companion for the last 3 years. It's the M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro. And so, in today's video, I'm going to help you decide between these two devices. Should you buy an iPad Pro? Should you buy a MacBook Pro? So, it's pretty simple. Do you need a computer for your everyday needs? Or do you need a computer for work? Because if you can answer these questions right away, if you need a computer for work, don't even think twice, buy the MacBook Pro. If you want a computer for your everyday needs, to watch TV shows, to watch Netflix, to do some word processing, to browse the web, social media, answer some emails, then the iPad Pro is more than capable of that. And then if you love iPadOS, if you love your iPhone, if you love touchscreens, and of course if you love an amazing OLED display, in that case, the iPad Pro should be for you. But here's the thing, if you decide to buy the iPad Pro, you are probably thinking, oh, it should be probably cheaper than buying a MacBook Pro, right? Well, you are so wrong. Buying the iPad Pro in its full combo, so buying the iPad Pro, the Magic Keyboard case, and the Apple Pencil will cost you almost $2,000. While if you decide to go for the base model M4 MacBook Pro, the same design as my 16-inch MacBook Pro with a smaller display, only 14 inches, still bigger than the 13-inch iPad Pro, it will give you an amazing feature. It will give you a mini LED display, 14 inches, amazing Magic Keyboard, amazing speakers, lots of I/O, the whole package for $1,500. While the iPad Pro is $500 more, almost. So the iPad Pro will always be more expensive than the Mac if you decide to go for the full package. If you decide to go for the smaller sized 11-inch iPad Pro, then I would say that's not comparable to a MacBook Pro. That's different. That's a different device. While the 13-inch iPad Pro, it's getting into MacBook territory, and that's the only one that can clash between these two devices. So, should you buy an 11-inch iPad Pro when compared to a MacBook? No, that's the first answer. 11-inch iPad Pro is not a MacBook replacement, neither a MacBook alternative, because the display is too small when compared to a MacBook display. The smallest MacBook display you can get is a 13-inch on the MacBook Air, and it's still much bigger than 11-inch iPad Pro. So, don't even consider buying an 11-inch iPad Pro if it is for a MacBook or a computer alternative. No, that's more of an iPad, that's more of the true iPad, while the 13-inch iPad Pro is something different. As for the hardware itself, both keyboards are really similar. The Magic Keyboard on the iPad Pro, really similar to the Magic Keyboard on the MacBook Pro. One thing that you can notice the differences is on the trackpads. The trackpad on MacBook Pro is a forced touch trackpad, so it does not click, while the trackpad on the iPad Pro does click. This is different, and you will feel that the MacBook Pro's trackpad is higher quality. It's also much bigger, gives you a bigger canvas. As for the speakers, the iPad Pro speakers, has a quad system speakers, are really good. They are stereo, but they are not as good as the MacBook Pro. Like, this computer has insane speakers. The 14-inch, the 16-inch speakers are incredible, and they are the best in the business. So even on the speaker side, the MacBook Pro, again, better. Magic Keyboard, I think it's a bit better on the MacBook Pro, has a bit more travel than the Magic Keyboard on the iPad Pro. The trackpad is also better. So the overall hardware on the MacBook Pro is better, even though the iPad Pro is more expensive. Weird, I know, but you gotta think, this is an hybrid device. It's not better at being a computer than a computer, and it's not a better tablet than other tablets whenever it's being an iPad computer. So this is a jack of all trades, a master of none. You're probably looking at these two devices and thinking, well, if I want the most portable device, I would go for the iPad Pro, right? Should be the thinnest, should be the lightest, and the easiest to carry around. And to that question, I would say you are right, unless you buy the Magic Keyboard. Because if you buy the Magic Keyboard, the MacBook Pro's weight and size and width will increase by a long shot. So if you compare it to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, or even, which is even more shocking, to the M4 MacBook Air, well, you will get a surprise. When compared to the MacBook Air, especially the 13-inch MacBook Air, the iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard is about the same thickness or even thicker, and it's much heavier. So the MacBook Air is a marvelous of engineering, so small, so powerful, and with a bigger display. While the iPad Pro has the weight balance distributed differently, so all the weight is concentrated on the display and not on the keyboard, which means whenever you are typing on your laptop, so like laptop function should be very, very important for you, then it tips over a bit because of the extra weight on the display, while the MacBook Pro's weight is really well balanced and it will never happen that. But that's one downside of having this form factor, this universal form factor. It can be an iPad Pro, it can be a MacBook Pro replacement, it could be a tablet, it could be a laptop, it could be whatever you want. This is more of a Transformers than it is of a full laptop, because it can be whatever you want. This can adapt to your needs, and that's why the iPad Pro, I do believe, is the laptop of the future for most people. Because it can be a touchscreen display focused only via just the iPad. You remove the Magic Keyboard, and it will be very light. It's almost like a sheet of glass. But whenever you want to do any type of word processing, you attach the Magic Keyboard, and you have an amazing, amazing keyboard to do whatever you want, to type, to use your keyboard. I don't know, to video edit if you want to, and maybe in the future to play games. So maybe the iPad Pro's form factor is the future when compared to the MacBook Pro, but the MacBook Pro right now is still much more practical than the iPad Pro. Again, it's more concentrated, it's really well built, it's tighter. So it actually enables Apple to put more things inside to make it even better cooled, to make it even more powerful, have bigger batteries on a smaller form factor, having a bigger display, being less heavier than the iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard. But it does not have a touchscreen, which is a big downside for most people. So in terms of form factor, the iPad Pro it's the hybrid of the devices. It's a combination between the iPhone and the MacBook Pro. It has almost as big a display as a MacBook Pro, but behaves like an iPhone. So for millennials and for younger people that are used to playing with iPhones all their lives, using the iPad Pro as a computer, it's much more intuitive than using macOS. I know that people that grew up using macOS will be much easier and easy to learn and understand this software system. But if you are not used to having macOS computers, especially if you are coming from Windows, it will be a much easier time to adapt to an iPad Pro than it is to a Mac. Trust me, if you are coming from a Windows computer and you are deciding between these two devices and you don't know which one will be easier to adapt, for sure iPadOS will be the easier system to learn. Because it's really similar to iPhone. So it's really similar to iOS, which is probably built on the same baseline. It has the same features, it has the same look. So if you are coming from a Windows computer, well, you will learn much faster using iPadOS than using macOS. But then again, macOS is also much more powerful, faster, and much more complex. So if you take the time and learn macOS, you will love this system. It's probably the best computer system in the world, so complex, so powerful, beautiful to look at, so intuitive if you actually take the time, and if you analyze it, it's super complete. While iPadOS still lacks lots of things that I've always criticized them on my reviews, so at the end of the day, this iPad Pro is more of an average consumer device for your everyday needs, for your everyday people, while the MacBook Pro is more of a professional device for your professionals out there that want to do professional work with professional software, with programs that are only available for computers that require lots of power, 3D rendering, video editing, photo editing in batches. The iPad Pro is still very powerful with the M4 chip, but the software system was not built for that. Even a complex file system, the iPad Pro does not feature it, while the MacBook Pro's Finder app is insane. So yeah, there's a big gap in terms of usability, in terms of focus between these two devices. One is for your average needs, your average consumer. The other is for professional needs and professional consumers. As for accessories, obviously the iPad Pro has way more accessories than the MacBook Pro. You can buy the Magic Keyboard, you can buy the Apple Pencil, you can buy docks, you can buy whatever you want. Of course, this iPad Pro does not have as much of I/O, so as much of expansion as the MacBook Pro. It only has 2 USB-C ports, 1 Thunderbolt port on the iPad Pro itself, and then if you buy the Magic Keyboard, you have another USB-C port. While if you buy the MacBook Pro, you have several ports. You have an SD card slot, you have an HDMI port, you have 3 USB-C ports, 1 headphone jack, and 1 MagSafe port. So you have lots of options on the MacBook Pro. Again, for professionals, the SD card slot, the extra USB-C ports, even HDMI is very, very important. While for your average consumer, USB-C, 2 USB-C ports is way more than enough. You have one for charging, You have one to connect your USB-C dock, you have one to connect your USB-C SSD, or even to charge your AirPods, to charge your iPhone. You can do all of that via your iPad. So in terms of accessories, the iPad Pro has more, but in terms of I/O and expandability, the MacBook Pro wins. Again, creating the same divergence in almost every aspect. This is an average computer for everyday people, for everyday needs. This is a professional one. Even on the performance, you can really notice why Apple does not focus on more powerful chips on the iPad Pro. One, because this design is too slim to accommodate an M4 Pro or even M4 Max chip. But the other part is, iPadOS does not take advantage of that extra performance. So Apple built the iPad Pro with the M4 chip in mind, so it could take the most advantage of that chip without overheating, but they did not make iPadOS complex enough to take advantage of all that power that comes with the M4 Pro and M4 Max. So it's not necessary to build apps, it's not necessary to build software, and so it's not necessary to build hardware for these very, very powerful needs. Apple restrained the iPad Pro from its birth to these everyday tasks, to make them even faster with the M4 chip, which has insane single-core performance, which for those everyday tasks that I talked about so much in today's video is so important. It makes them super fast. While the MacBook Pro's choice in terms of performance ladder is much bigger. You can buy the M4 chip for those everyday people that want a MacBook, but also you can go for a Pro option. You can go for the M4 Pro, you can go for the M4 Max. And those chips, they really show you what's the differences between these two devices in Apple's vision. This is the everyday computer, this is the professional one. You can get the M4 Pro for video editing, photo editing, coding, whatever you want. And then you can get the M4 Max with that extra GPU performance for those insane 3D renders and those insane AI tasks. So if you are looking for a computer for work, if you are looking for a computer to do the most important things that makes you money, then I would go for the MacBook Pro. Because the MacBook Pro's for certain to work. It might be more difficult to learn, it might be more consuming in terms of energy and power and brain matter, but at the end of the day, it will work. It won't fail you. And in a professional environment, that's really, really important. While the iPad Pro is super fun, it's super light, it's super easy to use, but it's also very, very limited. A big example that I tell lots of people is, for example, this iPad Pro cannot be doing two tasks at the same time. The RAM management is so aggressive that you cannot be exporting a YouTube video and doing anything else at the same time. You cannot be exporting a 3D render thing that you made and do another thing at the same time. You cannot do two tasks at the same time on the iPad Pro, big tasks. You can use two apps at the same time, of course. Even that is janky. Even Stage Manager is janky on the iPad Pro. Using two windows at the same time is not easy. So if you are productivity-based work, if you do anything productivity-based, having a bigger canvas with more productivity factors and features on the macOS system is much, much better. But going back for the two executions at the same time, two tasks at the same time, the RAM management on the iPad Pro kills it. So whenever you leave the app, it won't do the task anymore. That's one big reason not to buy the iPad Pro for work. The second big reason not to buy the iPad Pro for work is it does not support several audio inputs or several video inputs at the same time. You cannot play two videos from different apps on the iPad Pro at the same time. It kills it. Music, YouTube video, Netflix show, whatever. The iPad can only play one video and audio source at the same time, while the MacBook Pro can play several. And this might be a weird limitation, and yeah, I agree with you, but it's not from the performance side of the iPad Pro. It has the M4 chip, it's more than capable of doing that. It's Apple's ethos, it's Apple's philosophy when they look at iPadOS. And so, this does not do that. Apple chose not to make this computer do that. And so, it's still very, very limited. Apple is limiting the iPad Pro because it's almost like a child's device. It's limited because they want to. They are limiting you using your iPad Pro to its fullest. While the MacBook Pro is more of a grown-ups device. It's more difficult to use, more complex, but also much more powerful. One big advantage that the iPad Pro does have over the Mac, and this might be a deal breaker for you, that's why I'm mentioning it, is the back camera. The back camera on the iPad Pro is really useful if you want to scan documents, even take some photos and videos. It's not the best back camera in the world, it's 12 megapixels, but it does take good video, it does take good photos, especially for scanning documents with Apple Intelligence. Should be a great feature. So if you need that back camera for school, for university, and you scan lots of documents, lots of sheets, then the iPad Pro might be the best option. And with that, I want to give a bit recommendation for students. If you are looking for a computer for university specifically, and you are not from engineering side, so you don't require big programs or big things to run on your computer, like, I don't know, SolidWorks or even any type of coding software, then I would say buy the iPad Pro. It's much better. You can do all the things that you want for students, PowerPoint, Word, you can create your papers here, no issues. You can do all of your research, you can do AI research, ChatGPT, wherever you want. You have web-based programs, you have all the Google Suite, the Apple Suite, the Microsoft Suite, it's all available on the iPad Pro. And then, whenever you don't want to do that using the Magic Keyboard, you can take it off, use the Apple Pencil to take notes in class. And so, it's much better and a much more versatile computer for your university classes, for your classes itself, for your study. And so, I would go for the iPad Pro if I were a student. If I were a student on engineering, like I am right now, and you need all of those softwares to do all the things that are very important, especially on software engineering, mechanical engineering, you need those softwares to work on, then your only choice is the MacBook Pro. The iPad Pro does not support any type of those softwares. You will be left in the dust. Trust me. If you are an artist and you love the Apple Pencil, because that's what you do, then you don't need to watch this video. You all know the answer. The iPad Pro is your only choice. Of course, you can get third-party pencils for your MacBook Pro. They don't work on the screen. You need to connect them via USB-C and use them on the pad. But I don't think that's a viable option. The iPad Pro is a much better choice. And so, let me know in the comments below which one of these devices would you choose. An iPad Pro, a MacBook Pro. I'm lucky, I have both, and I like to work with them both together. So I use Sidecar, I even use the mirror screen feature on one of these devices, the AirPlay feature, and I share the screen with one or the other. I use universal control, and I take advantage of both of these devices. So it's really powerful, they are really powerful together. You don't need to use one or the other. You can use them together, they are really powerful. That's why I feel very lucky, because I was fortunate enough to buy both devices with my own means, and I know that's not for everyone. So if you are deciding between an iPad Pro and a MacBook Pro, it's a tough choice, but I hope this video was helpful. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Bye bye.